The following views and opinions expressed by Bill Simmons are solely those of Bill Simmons. These views and opinions do not necessarily represent those at ESPN. Bill, don't get fired.
I have to say that on Twitter and on Grandland all of the time. Go, Bill.
So
wait. I have to set this up. What are you?
The double setup? How many setups do we need?
No. No, it's just, it was a beautiful thing. What Bill says does not reflect the opinions of the rest of the company.
I know
we
Doug's
love you.
relieved. Doug's very relieved.
The topic du jour revolves around the NBA draft coming up in 8 months, and right now it is said to again be the best draft coming up in a generation, which is why tanking is the hot topic. Now, I went online, urbandictionary.com told me what tanking is. It's the act of giving up a match or throwing it away, losing intentionally, or not competing. Are you okay with that definition? Does that go along with what you believe?
And in the NBA, we use the word wrong. Because what we really, there is tanking, which happens near the end of the season when teams start shelving their best players, guys get mysterious injuries, all this stuff. What happened in the offseason and what's going to happen, I think, leading up to the trade deadline, I would call it sandbagging. And here's some examples. When your best rookie, Nerlens Noel, could come back in February, but you decide he's out for the season, you're sandbagging.
That's like in spades when you bid 6, but you really know you're going to get 9.
I don't understand what that means.
You're talking cards again.
So,
cigars and cards. Stop it.
So when you trade your starting center 3 days before the season starts and you don't have a backup for him, like Phoenix did, you're sandbagging. When you trade 2 Hall of Famers for future draft picks and $30 million of Gerald Wallace, you're sandbagging. That goes on and on. So you're not really tanking. You're not throwing away the season, but you're really worsening your own odds. And I think that's what's happening. I don't think we should call it tanking. You're sandbagging.
You know, watching the Sixers the other night play, I think what you're going to see a lot of these teams that Bill would talk about is what they would love to do would be put an entertaining product on the floor.
That loses.
That fans say, I like watching this team. It's something we've got to look forward to the future with Michael Carter-Williams and maybe some of these younger guys, something that we can cheer about, but in the end, we want to have the worst record so that we can get the most lotto balls. So that's
on those teams.
That's the way I look at it.
I look at it like planning, because nobody truly wants to lose, and when you're so bad and people aren't coming to watch you play, there's no guarantee, by the way, with our lottery system, that you're going to get a top flight player. Why are these teams potentially going to tank? Those are a few of the reasons. Andrew Wiggins is considered a knockdown. Tracy McGrady type prospect, Julius Randle, prototypical NBA power forward.
I think he's going to be number 1.
But I'm trying to figure out Aaron Gordon of Arizona isn't on that
Dominique
list.
2.0.
So, but the question is are these players going to become Hakeem Olajuwon, Patrick Ewing, Tim Duncan, or LeBron James? Are they going to be franchise-changing players, multiple All-Stars, or very good players? That's the key.
And the reason why we're talking about this is it's going to be a dominant theme this season. This has a chance to be the best draft in 29 years, I think, since the 1985 draft. And if you have a chance to get a franchise player at 5 or at 6 or at 7 or at 8, that's a whole different ballgame than just trying to tank for Durant and Odin. And I think as it gets closer to the trade deadline, I think you're going to see teams just throwing their hands away.
All right, I was in a situation. I went to Philadelphia as the first pick in the draft. Back then, there was no tanking or whatever. You flipped a coin, you know, that's where you went. So just think about Phoenix loses the coin flip. They don't get Abdul-Jabbar at that time, Kareem.
They get Neil Walk.
And they never have had a center ever. They've been a point guard franchise. They've never been able to get a big man. But I went to Philadelphia in that 1973 draft. If you looked at that draft, a lot of good young players drafted. We drafted George McGinnis, I think, in the 3rd round that year in the supplemental in case something happened with the ABA. Well, it did. George McGinnis tried to sign with New York. It was voided. He came to us. The next year, the Nets disbanded, and we bought Julius Erving. So you can get pieces in the draft, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to get a star, either free agency or trade, to finish the deal.
And here's some food for thought on the current Miami Heat roster. They have a number 1 and a number 2 overall pick here recently in Greg Oden and Michael Beasley. One's had injury issues. The others had personal and performance issues. They were top flight players that they would hope to be franchise changing players that went behind Derrick Rose, that went in front of Kevin Durant.
Well, it's funny. You look at Oklahoma City, and they got Durant, they got Harden, they got Westbrook in 3 straight drafts. Everybody points to that example as like, oh, here's what happens when you bottom out. Then you get all these top 5 guys. That's your best case scenario. It's the same thing with Miami. You have all this cap space. Oh, I could get LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. Well, how many times has that happened? I mean, think of all the times where the teams didn't get anybody.
Well, who did the Knicks get with all the cap space?
They got Amari Stoudemire.
Yeah, who did Orlando get with all the cap space?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, when you start looking, you know, Dick Motta used to have a great line. He said, you know, money can't play. You got to have players. And that cap space is nice. It gives you a lot of opportunities, but it's a tough thing to build just simply by being bad. It takes those young players a long time to be ready to win.
It's just hard, I will say, as a fan, to say, okay, tank, sandbag, call it what you want. Basically, accept it, right? And look ahead to the future and be thankful that there's a plan.
Undermine? Do you like undermine more than sandbag?
I don't like any of it.
Defense.
I don't like any of it. Okay, we continue that discussion later. There's Deron Williams, the anchor of